Thank you, Dave.
That's why you're chief.
And he is ready, willing, and able, along with Mr. Pakinowski, to move forward. And I think it's incumbent upon these three commissioners to participate in this endeavor, because all three of you commissioners have taken a sworn oath to uphold the New Jersey State Constitution that specifically and expressly mandates a thorough and efficient education. Presently, we're paying 200% to 300% more per pupil per year than Ventnor does. And the Ventnor is willing and able to cut our costs anywhere from a half to a third of what they are presently. You're looking at millions and millions of dollars of savings. And this would go for that firehouse number 2, Mayor, because our fire chief supposedly is in favor of shared services. And therefore, we might look to Mayor Bagnell and the fire chief down there to perhaps share services there rather than build another Taj Mahal out of firehouse number 2. And I think it's incumbent that we begin to look at shared services, because we cannot continue along this line of spending huge amounts of money with the ever-increasing county tax coming due to the casino situation in Atlantic City. So, Mayor, I urge you, reach out to Mayor Bagnell. He's waiting for your call. He's waiting for your participation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. And we certainly can. Go ahead.
I think all of us are united in that we want to share services. You're mentioning the school, but there's other opportunities, and I think it's the only major opportunity in the future that we're going to be able to save our taxpayers' money. So, you know, I think Longport, Margate, and Ventnor really need to get back to meeting and talking about ways that we can start sharing more services.
Agreed. Anyone else?
Mayor, if I may.
You may.
I'd just like to make a comment on the meeting, the previous meeting, the work meeting, with regard to the Dune project. I would be remiss if I didn't report this. I was actually at a meeting with Ed Wahlberg, our city engineer, and the DEP and Army Corps regarding them requesting work to be done on drainage issues. And Mr. Wahlberg and I both advised those two agencies that at this point in time there was no authorization to move ahead with any design on drainage issues. So Ed's not been authorized to do that.
Cool. Thank you for that clarification, Chief. Or Business Administrator. Which are you? Thank you. Anyone else? Sorry.
Speaking of those dunes, and at the risk of beating a dead horse, I'd like to understand what's going on.
Your name and
Ray LeQuillier, 3 Dolphin Drive, Margate. I know we've had these discussions before, but I don't understand why we're not investing the money in litigation against it. I know some of you are for it, some of you aren't. But when we take into consideration, for example, the salaries being paid for just the Margate librarian and his assistant, which is over $210,000 a year. There's been a press story about the longer-term City Hall employees, what they're making. It's a lot of money. And given that the value of the beaches, the cost that it's going to be, I would suggest, again, we look into investing into that fight. And if we do lose it, if they put it in, we're not signing contracts to maintain them. As far as I know, we haven't agreed to that. I assume we're supposed to maintain them. And if the worst comes to worst and they put them in, can we maintain them, and I've said it before, it's not really a joke, by bulldozing them flat? Maybe that's our maintenance plan, to just put them in, and this is how we're maintaining them. We take them down. They're done. Otherwise, I don't think Christie really wants another scandal. I mean, maybe he doesn't care. But if we approach his people this way, saying, let us be the one example of a town along the seaboard that doesn't have them, and when the next storm comes and it destroys us, you can throw your pudgy little hands in the air and say, see, I was right. I don't think it's ever going to happen. I don't think he's going to be right. But it could be another way to go to sort of save face. Let them say, we're the idiots, you're stupid, fine, we're not going to build it there, and we'll see what happens when the next one comes. If the next one comes and the bulkheads don't actually do their job, fine. I think the bulkheads will do their job. Our beaches are longer than they've ever been. You can't actually go and give the fishing pier its own special dispensation because they're a private concern. If you give it to them, you've got to give it to every beachfront person because they're also individual people. I've got time. So the library, we're paying $500 each on our tax assessment. I just noticed, what are we getting for that money? I live a half a block from that library. I don't use it. I go to Ventnor because they're part of the county system. They can get books if they don't have them. The DVD rentals are free. They're nice. They're delightful. They're helpful there. And for the $500, do I could just go in and take a few books, $500 worth, and put them on my shelves and keep them with a New York Times subscription? Kind of a waste of money. I think we could sort of do better with the budget on that. And my final thing is the streets that have been torn up for going on 8 months now, the street ends. I can't fathom why this is taking so long. We've been driving over this for 7 months. Our car suspensions are shot. I just couldn't help notice that Nassau, the beach block, was pulled up like as an afterthought and paved within 2 or 3 weeks. Again, we've had 7 months and counting, and it's still not finished. I don't know when they're going to finish. I know they've told us before the summer people get back. Well, God knows the summer people are the most important of all, because the people who live here year-round can really essentially go ourselves. So anyway, those are my wonderful comments. And yes, our light is still out. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Art Cortelli, 114 North Lancaster. A number of times I've gotten up and talked about beach block parking, and there's been various things I've offered as suggestions, but thought of another one just to throw out for what it's worth. I know that each year you make a real effort to take all the signs down after the summer's done, and you don't have to punish the visitors anymore. You take all the no parking signs down, and then you put them all back up again come the summer. So I just thought that, okay, there's a problem if there's a fire or something, they have to get fire equipment down, and I see that it's allowed in other communities. So maybe you can just park on one side, and if you put signs up on the one side that says parking 8 to 5 or whatever it may be, and you could say February to, count 6 months, so you're in the middle of the summer, February to July, and then parking on the other side is July through February. So this way, no one says, well, you're picking on my side of the street, or you're picking on my side. So that there'll always be parking, and half of the summer parking on one side, and half of the summer and the rest of the winter on both sides, I guess. So if you can do that, it's even if you just added 2 parking spaces, wow, to each of those blocks. We have about 40 beach blocks. That's 80 parking spaces. And you know how great it is? It's not just concentrated in one area. If you notice the people on the beach, they're not just concentrated in one area, they're distributed. And you need parking spaces distributed. So even making a huge parking lot in the middle doesn't really help you that much. But this kind of thing with 2 extra parking spots in each block, that would be distributed well across the whole beach. One side, then the other side. Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve Warner, 103 North Sumner. Concerning the dunes, the person that talked a couple minutes ago, I don't think there's going to be another storm. I was one of your comments. I've been here, there have been 3 storms since I've been here, 62, 92, 2012. I can assure you there'll be another storm. And take that to the bank. And I just hope we're ready. And That's one thing. I think sometimes it'd be good to get the facts a little bit straighter when you talk. It would be good. I hope we're ready for the next storm. It will come.
Thank you, Steve. Anyone else?
Sharon Simon, 424 North Thurlow Avenue. I don't think someone should come up and insult the person before by saying they should get their facts straight. Just speak on your own issue would be much better. As far as the dunes go, we already had the vote, we already had the information. The question now is simply, might not be a simple answer, can the state legally require us to do the dunes? We had a vote. Can they or can't they? That is the only question that remains right now. We've already decided 65% of the people don't want it. So I agree, though, with Mr. Warner. I believe that, if we could have a vote, which we don't vote on how much we're spending on legal fees, but if we could have a vote, if we should hire outside counsel for Tom Hiltner's whistleblower suit, and have Commissioner Tobey and Mayor Becker continually put things out in the paper and continue to retaliate and run up legal fees left and right, my guess is people would say, no thank you, we don't want to spend our taxpayer money that way. I bet you if we asked people to vote on whether we should get into a legal issue with Marketplace Realty, rather than having Commissioner Tobey first not put the stuff out in the paper, but after she did, just apologize, or should we hire somebody, which we did up to $10,000, my guess is everybody would vote no. As far as the dunes, they're not all going to vote no. So there it is. Okay, I just want to read some parts to it. Absurd and petty, banned from Township Hall, that was in the press on the 29th. We have a suggestion for elected officials. When you're considering a particular action, imagine yourself explaining that action to a judge in a courtroom. You can save yourself a lot of trouble that way. Municipal elected officials in particular might want to heed this advice. They are usually part-timers, often not as attuned to how the legal system works as holders of higher office might be. But it's a simple test. If what you're doing it is to virtually any casual onlooker completely unreasonable, you can figure that you are not likely to prevail. To be fair, and this is about Dick's, is also a royal pain, which I am known to be as well. Every town has someone like her, if it's lucky. Many people have said our town's lucky to have me. She's inquisitive and outspoken. She has a near encyclopedia knowledge of the township's past actions, and she doesn't back down. But neither that nor her political squabbles with other Republicans on the township committee come close to justifying what is happening to her now. According to a March 19th memo Dix received from the township human resources director, she is banned from Township Hall during business hours and forbidden from speaking to the township employees. We are not making this up. When I was sent not to go to the hardware store, and the mayor
15 seconds.
had a complaint against me from banning me, tried to ban me, and I agreed to stay out of the hardware store, even though legally he didn't really have a basis for banning me, didn't go to court, but then took me to court because he tried to ban me from standing up at a public participation meeting or in between meetings. The bottom line was, you can make all your faces you want, but the truth is that I then filed a malicious prosecution suit. In the end, it cost the city taxpayers money because it was absurd and petty. And I'm sure the mayor wants to comment on it, but the fact of the matter is the judge said, you can't tell her not to talk to you in City Hall, on the steps of City Hall. There's First Amendment rights. Thank you.
Anyone else? It's a motion to close public comment.
I'll make a motion that we close public comment.
I'll second that.
Mr. Becker? Yes. Blumberg?
Yes.
Dalby?
Yes.
Is there any public comment on resolutions?
Bill Potts, 26 North Frontenac Avenue. I've noticed a couple times in the claims for payment and in our meetings, there's a line item listed for payments to the library. This month, the amount cited in here is $326,000 to be paid to the library. My question is this quarterly, is this annual, quarterly term?
Quarter.
So we're looking at
Right?
We're looking at $1.3 million that the city turns over to the library to operate. Is that computation of that dictated by state law?
State statute, it's a formula, and we can't change it.
Is it based on the assessed value of the town?
You can either pay them what they call 1/3 of a mil of the assessed value of the town, or I believe it's 5% over the previous year's appropriation, whichever municipality wants to do. It's their choice. Usually they choose the lower of the two, but they are state law.
And Tom, it's state law, state ratio, but if, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think if they don't use all the budget, can't they give it back to the city?
There is some issues with surplus. I think it has to be in their kitties for 2 years and things. I think there's criteria with that, too. I'd be speaking, the other thing I spoke about, I'm confident I know, but this question, yes, but some qualifications.
I think I had a feeling for that. I had taken a look at it before, and you kind of confirmed what I felt. So each time the assessed value of the town goes up, the library gets an automatic bump in their budget, correct?
Correct.
And if they don't use it or spend it, they have to give it back to the city.
I don't know about having to give it back.
Okay, they may give it back to the
There's a
city.
vehicle for them, too. They don't have to give it back. They may give it back, correct?
Okay, so the commissioners have no say as far as what goes to the library. I don't know if they have any,
None whatsoever. State ordained.
it just seems like it's a computation that just keeps pounding on the taxpayers as long as assessments go up.
It's a formula that I think that maybe somebody can reach out to the legislatures, because it's old, it's outdated. The assessment is one thing, ours keeps going up like you noted, but the other option is, I believe it's 15% over the prior year, which is a big number. But it's a statute, it's about 70 years old, so I think maybe,
I think Leon has it, because when this whole library issue came up,
well, we ought to maybe ask our legislators to take a look at it and
Yeah, I think it'd be a good idea to take a look, even though it's by statute. It just grows and grows. I noticed when the law first got passed that they couldn't carry surplus, we had pretty large improvements accomplished over at the library area, and I tend to see that on an annual basis now.
if you notice the tax bill, there's a separate line item now for your
Library.
tax bill for library,
That's about
and that was done
$200.
because they did the cap at 3%, and we're saying, well, wait a minute, 3%, you're making us give them 15. I think that we got to get,
Yeah.
if they're going to cap us at 3, I think their cap from us to them should be 3.
I would suggest we reach out, see if anything can be done with that uncontrollable figure. Another piece is, I use the library frequently, and I'm kind of taken back that there is a cash jar sitting as you check out of the library soliciting contributions to help sustain the library and support the library. I think the taxpayer is providing $1.3 million now, and there's a cash bucket sitting on the countertop asking for cash donations. I think maybe we should take a look at it, and maybe there's a little bit of control could be impacted with the library. Thanks a lot.
Well, thank you, sir. Anyone else? Resolutions only.
Sewell, 22 West Drive. Mayor, I realize you'd like to have resolutions only, but you have an ordinance here, number 13, and I would like to remind you that perhaps ordinances could be better vetted by allowing the public to comment not only at the second reading, but at the first reading, and we wouldn't have this snafu on number 13 this week. I think it's only fair that there be input from the public early enough that these things can be researched. And as I've said concerning this particular ordinance, it should be tabled until the gross overspending on the asbestos removal is first addressed. It's your duty, Mayor, constitutional duty, to control the spending of the school board. It's constitutionally mandated. You took a sworn oath to do so, and you haven't not done so thus far. I want to see that addressed immediately. And Mayor, resolution number 100, the police chief and acting city administrator spoke about this $35,885,000, Mayor. I believe this was part and parcel of your $1 million Field of Dreams. Was it, Mayor?
John, I take exception to you keep rewriting history and telling me that it was...
Well, correct me, Mayor. I'm here to be corrected. I'm a humble guy. Correct me, Mayor.
This was new, John.
New for what?
The tennis courts have cracks in them, and they have
Yes.
to be repaired.
Well, why aren't they repaired under warranty, Mayor? I think they guarantee those things. But really, why should the average taxpayer who doesn't play tennis have to pick up this $35,885,000? Why don't we sort of put the use fees in escrow just for these little repairs? I don't particularly care to pay for it, no more than I care to pay for your old buddy Danny Boy's hand court that's heated in the middle of winter. One of those green initiatives of Margate. What was that number, Mayor? Has anybody ever switched the heat on that thing? You know, that morphed into $2 million, and all of a sudden you had amnesia or dementia. You couldn't remember why it morphed into $2 million. I'm not rewriting history. I'm stating facts, Mayor, that you don't have your hand on the tiller, especially the financial tiller. There's been a lot of till taps here, and we're not happy about it, Mayor. I think it's time for you to uphold your fiduciary duty to the taxpayers and make sure that money's not squandered, including this $35,885,000. If people want to play tennis, let them pay for it, Mayor. Find out what it would cost in hourly fees to recoup that $35,885,000. Don't you think that's only fair, Mayor?
Yes, John.
All right, then let's get a resolution to that effect, that there be an escrow fund set up. Tasty cake time, I'm all for it.
Thank you. For the Field of Dreams record, John, the total spent on the Field of Dreams was $2.5 million. Is that correct? And if you go back and check your records, I voted for the first $1 million, and I voted against the last $1.5 million. Okay.
The horses and the cows out of the gate.
Okay. Right. I knew you'd have an answer, John. You didn't disappoint me. Thank you.
Gray Laquier, 3 Dolphin Drive. Anyway, back to the library. Just one quick question. Are those fees we're mandated to pay because it's a standalone library as opposed to being part of the county system? And why aren't we part of the county system?
We have looked at that over the years. Initially, Margate was never part of the county back historically. It's been studied and looked at. With our rateable base being what it is, we would probably pay a lot more if we were in the county system than we're paying now.
Will we be getting a lot more, too? Will we be able to control the salaries, for example?
I can't answer that. I'm just telling you, I answered your first question.
Okay, because I know that the librarians at Ventnor are kind of aghast at what they're being paid in Margate, and they do far more work than ours do. Granted, we have that 2-month influx to justify it, and that brilliant policy of making the 12 remaining school children we have get their coexistent library cars that work in the school and the library. But beyond that, $210,000 Raymond as assistant? Good Lord. And yes, I love the tip jar as well. I've never put anything into it, but I'm kind of appalled by the fact that it's there. Thank you.
Anyone else? Is there a motion to close public comment?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Blumberg?
Yes.
Ms. Dalty?
Yes.
Tom?
Okay, we have ordinance 2014-13, and this is the bond ordinance previously discussed, and this is a clarification for the vote that was held on April the 17th. So, do we motion? I guess we'll make a motion and we'll second it and vote.
Do we need a motion?
Do you need a motion?
We don't need a motion, do we?
Not really. This is to clarify the vote, we guess.
Okay.
without any
I
qualification.
voted positively 2 weeks ago, and I vote that way again. I certainly do.
And I vote yes, too.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, the next item is Resolution 97, authorizing the payment of claims and
I'll
payroll.
make that motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Blumberg?
Yes.
Ms. Taube?
Yes.
Resolution 98 approves the beach opening dates of June 14th through September the 1st, and then also the days for the permitting of the barbecuing on the beach of July 4th and 5th and August 31st and September 1st.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Blumberg?
Yes.
Ms. Taube?
Yes.
And Resolution 99 authorizes the online auction of 4 lifeguard boats and a pool table.
Make that motion.
Second.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Blumberg?
Yes.
Ms. Taube?
Yes.
And Resolution 100 awards contract to Nicholas Construction for Jerome Avenue Tennis Courts in the amount of
I will also
$35,885.
make that motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Blumberg?
Yes.
Ms. Taube?
Yes.
And Resolution 101 authorizes the payment to Colmar Home Center in the amount of $900.48.
Make that motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Blumberg?
Yes.
Ms. Taube?
Yes.
And 102 authorizes the payment to Jersey Architectural Door in the amount of $1,000.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Ms. Taube?
Yes.
That's all we have.
Thank you, Tom. Is there a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Blumberg?
Yes.
Ms. Taube?
Yes.
And thank you all for being here.
Okay.
What's that?
Almost 1.3.
The library's got 1.3 million.
And it's the portion of the formula is either 1/3 of a mill or 1/8.